Good morning. Welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. I'm Dave Lloyd, chair of our worship team. My pronouns are he and his. I'm pleased to be with you today as worship associate. Our music today is provided by Dennis Seegit. So glad you're here, Dennis. If you will, please place your phone in worship mode. But do feel free to check in on social media and let people know that you're worshiping here today. Take all the pictures you like. Wait till I'm off, though, so you get nice pictures. Any children will be staying with us in the service today. There's always a lot going on at church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday. There are printed copies available downstairs. If you would like to receive News and Notes and are not currently, stop by the welcoming table in the living room at the back of church. It's actually been moved to the annex, and line up and sign up. There are just a few announcements today. We post on News and Notes the ability to sign up for Beds Plus. Beds Plus, of course, provides housing service to people all over the western suburbs. And if you're reluctant to sign up, because like everything today, you've got to set up an account and do all that stuff, please see Mary Getty after the service. Is Mary here, or are you downstairs? Mary's downstairs. You'll recall that that Joyce Van Cura passed away this past year, and Jay has been going through the house and her large collection of clothes. My recollection of Joyce, besides being fun and interesting and funny, she was always impeccably dressed. And he's gone through and collected large volumes of her wardrobe, and they are on display for sale in the RE building. Is it room 2? I believe that's right. So for a small donation to the church, you can go home with some of the tasteful clothes. And next Saturday morning, July 22nd, there will be a recycling event at Hinsdale South High School, which is at 7401 Clarendon Hills in Darien. Just about anything that is recyclable. The list that I saw, takes up a whole page. So if you have something that is remotely recyclable, go there. It's one of those where you drive up and there are all these volunteers to help you. Next Saturday morning from 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is good to see you. I'm the Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson. My pronouns are she and they, and I'm so pleased to welcome you this morning on a not tornado-y, not thunderstormy day. One of the things that I've told people when I moved back to the Midwest, my biggest fear was ticks. That's been replaced by tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. So I'm happy to be here with you, and that me and my cat, Ms. B, have not had to hunker down in the basement for 2 days. So that's great. It is good to be with you on this day of finding the path to our center is our service today. The service is going to involve some movement, and there are, we're going to walk a labyrinth. We've got a beautiful labyrinth in the back. And there's finger labyrinths for people who would rather not walk the labyrinth, so I'm excited about this. I want to just thank Pam Fodor, our Director of Programs, who, when I said, I wish I had a labyrinth, said, I have a labyrinth. And I said, I wish I had some finger labyrinths. And she said, I have finger labyrinths. And then I said, it'd be nice to have a time for all ages. And she said, she has a labyrinth book, y'all, so you're going to hear from her about that later. So I just want to give deep appreciations for Pam, who couldn't be with us this morning. So, beloveds, I just invite you to breathe with me, to just take a breath and arrive. This is a service that'll provide us with opportunity for breath, for silence, for reflection, for movement. This is a service of going in. You do so much in our world that is about going out, which is fine, good. But this is a time to go in. So taking a breath, feeling your body on the chair. Maybe it has aches. Maybe it feels good today. Allow the breath to take you into your center. And know that throughout this service, you'll be invited to journey back to your center throughout the service. And now I invite you into worship with words by Reverend Angela Herrera. All that you need lies within you. Consider this an invitation to you. Yes, you. With all your happiness and your burdens, your hopes and regrets. An invitation if you feel good today. An invitation if you do not. If you are aching. And there are so many ways to ache. Maybe your heart is heavy or hardened. Maybe it's troubled, and peace can take up residence only in a small corner, only on the edge with all that's going on in the world and in your life. Mimoto, it doesn't matter. All that you need for a deep, comforting peace to grow lies within you. Once it is in your heart, let it spread into your life. Let it pour from your life into the world, and once it is in the world, let it shine upon all beings. Taking another breath, letting peace spread throughout your hearts. Let us enter, rejoice, and come into this place of sanctuary, this place of learning, this place of challenge, this place of comfort. Invite you to rise in body or spirit, and let's sing together.
This reading is by Reverend Scott Taylor from Before the World Told Us Who It Wanted Us to Be. May the light we now kindle and the time we now share anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred center, which helps us remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. May our time together clear the way for those memories and voices and friends that lead us back home.
So I was so excited when I asked Pam if she had a Time for All Ages, and she gave me Ladybug Labyrinth book. And that's because, first of all, I love ladybugs, and that picture of that ladybug was taken right outside the RE building. Can you see that sweet little ladybug? Yeah. But here is the Ladybug Labyrinth, A Journey Home. It's by Leah Good Harris, PhD, who works with children around, issues of safety. And her dedication is to ladybugs and all beings, precious and small. Lady Labyrinth, A Journey Home. Once there was a little teensy-weensy ladybug. One morning, Ladybug decided to go on an adventure, for she loved to ride the sky blue breezes of change. She took off her little wings, carrying her up into those sky breezes. This morning, though, the winds blew, and Ladybug was tumbled this way, and then that way, and upside down, and then right side up, until Ladybug had no idea where she was. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, figuratively or literally. Finally, Ladybug was able to land on a splendid blade of grass next to a dandelion and looked around. She saw birds in the sky. She saw a squirrel run up a tree. She saw green moss and ferns growing. And then she saw a sign, a wooden sign, near a bunch of lupine. The sign said, "To the labyrinth." So Ladybug got up, and even though she was still just a little bit dizzy, she followed the sign. She followed the directions down a path that took her to another sign. This one said, "Lady Labyrinth, start here." What do you think Ladybug did? She went into the labyrinth, following the yellow-green path, edged with waving grass, covered in morning dew, and moved her little legs gleefully as the grasses tickled her legs and belly. She wound around and around and thought she was lost. But a little voice whispered to her, "Don't be afraid. Trust your feet." So Ladybug continued on. She turned around another corner. Now, where was she going? Was she lost? The little voice whispered again, "Trust your feet and your fingers." And Ladybug went on and on. When Ladybug turned the corner, there it was, the center of the labyrinth. And it was full of glorious grass and daisies. Ladybug sat down at the very center of the labyrinth, felt the sun streaming down on her shiny back. She wiggled down into the golden center. Ladybug decided to take a little nap, for Ladybug was warm and felt safe, all cozy in that center place. When Ladybug woke up, she was rested and happy and no longer felt dizzy or lost, for she knew right where she was, in the center place. What should she do now? Ladybug wondered. Follow the path back home and take this safe, cozy feeling with you, the little voice whispered. Ladybug asked, "Who are you, little voice?" "I am the voice of your heart," the little voice said, "and I will always be with you especially when you take the time to slow down and listen. So Ladybug began to wind her way back out of the labyrinth, first turning one way, then turning another, skipping the whole way. Just want you to picture a ladybug skipping just for one moment with me. Okay? Skipping the whole way, for Ladybug knew she couldn't get lost following the path beneath her legs. When Ladybug emerged from the labyrinth, she turned around and blew a kiss to the waving green grass. "Goodbye, labyrinth," Ladybug called. "I'll come back and play again soon." With that, Ladybug unfurled her little wings and took off again into the sky blue breezes, with her heart singing all the way home. In a moment, we'll be able to be like little ladybugs, maybe big ladybugs. But first, Dave.
As we celebrate the gifts and diversity we cherish in this community, we invite the spirit of generosity in support of our church. It's okay. Please read along the lines on the screen. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with all the world. We now will gratefully receive your contribution. Thank you in advance for your generosity. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you all for your generosity.
I love that for those of us who knew the song, we're just spontaneously humming, some of us singing. There's something about that, right? The familiarity. And if you're new here or don't know the song, I hope that you felt kind of wrapped in the sense of community and the sweetness of just spontaneously humming together. It's beautiful. Here, I'm going to get this. I'm still, learning about the whole thing. I'm going to invite you to breathe with me again. And just take a breath. Allow the breath to bring you back into that place in your body that is your center. Like Ladybug found her center, I invite you to breathe and reconnect with that place in your body that you connected with at the beginning of the service. Your knower, the still small voice that always leads you home. Remembering the words from Angela Herrera this morning, that we come with joyful hearts, with hearts that are burdened, with excitement, with sadness, sometimes with all of that. So I invite you to just take a breath and connect with whatever it is that you brought with you today. A joy or a sorrow, just taking a breath, just feeling it. And you know, it's okay to feel it. The poet Rilke wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror." And this is a time in community to allow ourselves to feel everything and know that we're held in a container of love and that we always find our way home on our little ladybug feet. This morning, our joys and sorrows are going to be done differently. We have beautiful pebbles and stones, and come on in. And we're going to have the opportunity to hold a stone and share your joy or your sorrow, and then put it into a bowl of water, knowing that the water is the container, right, that holds us, that holds our community, that washes us with love, with comfort, with freshness, with refreshment. And water also takes us to the depths. So this morning, we're going to invite you to go ahead and come up if you'd like to share. And also, please know that you can drop a pebble in silence, okay? And just go ahead and allow the Spirit to move you or not. And if you'd like to come up and share, we invite you to do that.
I'm Kathy, and I'm still aware that it's been almost a year since I lost my husband, and I still miss him.
Say his name.
My husband was Gary.
Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
This pebble is for my sister who died about 2 weeks ago.
Will you tell us her name?
Barbara, she was 15 months younger than me.
So she was like 60? Yeah.
I have a joy and a sorrow. My big joy is that my dad is been in town for. He lives in Florida. He's traveled here for about a month, and he's going to be here for another week. So my sister and I are really happy about that. And my sorrow is that I had to make the a choice of having to end a lifelong friendship with someone that she's not doing well mentally or psychologically, and I tried, but I needed to create that boundary, and that and so anyway, that's all I have to say. So I'm going to stop. All right. All right.
Way to go. Our job.
Labyrinths always remember me on a joy I had way back. I was on Crete with Carol Christ, and we walked a labyrinth right by the sea. It was wonderful.
Hi, I'm Karen. My joy is my oldest daughter is expecting a rainbow baby, a baby after she lost a baby. So she's on her 5th baby, and she's due in December. And my other words is change. Change is coming up. I'm moving to Olympia in a month for a year, or most of a year.
My joy is for the earthy pebbles.
This is for Parker, our great-grandson, who is just 12 months, was taken to Northwestern for a terrible allergy reaction. They transported him to Lurie's Children's Hospital, where they gave him another EpiPen. Thank goodness he's home, he's fine.
I'm Dave. Some days my job sucks, but not on Sundays.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you all. I invite you to take another breath with me. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, moving in, through, and among us. We pause in this time after all that has been heard and all that is being held in people's hearts. As we move through this time, may we remember who we are, belonging to one another, belonging to the spirit of life and love that whispers to us in our joys, you go, and in our sorrows, you are held. For each and all in this day and in the days to come, know this. You are always and everywhere held in love and mystery deeper than you can know. So, what happens inside you in silent moments? Or in the times when you're lost, having been blown around in a desperately huge storm, inner or outer, and you don't know where you landed, and you finally settle. What happens inside you? What do you hear? What do you feel? Where on your body do you feel it? And why find your center anyway? Why would we want to do that? Sometimes we're forced to find our center, like Ladybug, who, as we saw, was blown off course, found herself lost, and had to find her way back. And the only way back was to find her way to her center, which is the way back. We humans, we've constructed a world that certainly seems to have been constructed for extroverts. And those of us who are introverted find our way. Our culture is very outward focused, achieve, acquire. So what does finding our center, taking those quiet times do? It connects us to who we are, to what's important, to that still small voice, the voice of our heart. For some people, it is the voice of the holy. Sometimes I'm suspicious when I hear this little small voice because it sounds a lot like mine. But then I have to trust that there is a wisdom in me. And there are several ways that we find our center, right? How many of you meditate or do some sort of meditation practice? Okay. How many of you have a prayer practice where you engage in, just speaking your intention for yourself or for other people? Okay, some people do, y'all. How many people love listening to trees? If you like listening to trees, keep your hand up. Yeah, because there are a lot of, and now, for those of you who love to listen to trees, keep your hands up and wave your hands, just like the trees. How many of you like to dance? How many of you have ever done dances of universal peace? Okay, I've got 2 hands who've done the dances of universal peace, right? And for those of you who don't know, it was called Sufi dancing, right? Okay, if you know it by Sufi dancing, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, there you go, now you know, right? The actual Sufis twirl. This is something that was brought in the 60s. Beautiful dances that really bring you to the center. And sometimes you're partnered, sometimes you're not. And there is spinning involved. How many of you just look out the window? Yep. And do you find a center there? How many of you journal? Write a journal. Okay, some of us do that. There are all sorts. Listen to birds. How many people listen to birds? And when you listen to birds, does it take you to another place? Does it take you to your center? For me, my center is inner and connects me with outer and brings me back again. So, and don't worry, we're journeying to our center today. Another service, we're going to be living from center and imagining what it's like to live that out. But we're going to stay inner today. And one of the practices of journeying to the center, as Ladybug did, is to use a labyrinth. A labyrinth is an ancient tool. It's known for being a contemplative Christian practice. There's a beautiful labyrinth in the church at Chartres. Our labyrinth today is not that, but it is beautiful. But the practice goes back even further. And it's a contemplative practice. And in a time of noise in our world, a time of competing claims and grabs for our attention, it is countercultural to take time to journey in and to have a contemplative practice. Now, some people don't sit well. Like literally do a sitting meditation practice. The one where you follow your breath and you listen to your thoughts, or you watch your thoughts and you let them go. And then there's somebody swinging on a chandelier telling you how awful you are. And some of us need to move and find movement in the labyrinth, a helpful contemplative practice. So we're going to have an opportunity to do that in just a moment. In a very synchronistic moment yesterday, your executive board, your board of trustees, met with Lisa Presley, who's our regional lead for the UUA. And about 40 of you came to our startup evening on Friday. How many of you were here? Thank you so much for those of you who came, and those of you who didn't. You will learn what you missed because we're going to have more conversations. But when the board met all day yesterday, Reverend Lisa shared a reading with us. And it's from Leslie Takahashi. Labyrinth. Walk the maze within your heart. Guide your steps into its questioning curves. The labyrinth is a puzzle leading you deeper into your own truths. The labyrinth is a puzzle leading you deeper into your own truths. Listen to the twists and turns. Listen in the openness within searching. Listen. A wisdom within you calls to a wisdom beyond you, and in that dialogue lies peace. So in a moment, we're going to invite you to engage in the practice of walking the labyrinth or using a finger labyrinth. And in a moment, Dave's going to help us pass out the finger labyrinths that folks may need. So if you need a finger labyrinth, raise your hand. If you're not going to be able to or don't want to walk the labyrinth, why don't you pass them out now? Keep your hand raised so Dave knows who you are. And how many of you, I'm having you raise your hand and I was going to ask you another question. And that would confuse Dave. So you can, all right, folks who would like a finger labyrinth, raise your hand. It is not a Frisbee, Dave. Okay. How many of you have walked a labyrinth before? Raise your hand and raise it high. Okay, so you've had the experience. There is no right way to be or think when you're using the labyrinth. What I suggest, since we are looking at finding your center, before you step into the labyrinth, which is in the back, I invite you to just breathe. Connect back into that center that we've been connecting with, and then follow your path. You may have a question. Once, when I did a labyrinth walk, it was Samhain and the Celtic Wheel of the Year, that's the Halloween time, and I had just started seminary, and there was this beautiful pagan ritual, and I'm walking the labyrinth, and I get to the center, and what I got was the 3 words for my ministry were faith, hope, and love. Frankly, that sounded a little conventional, and I was like, really? And then yes. So if you have a question, bring that question with you. When you get to the center, just a little pause, because there are a number of us, but just take that, have enough time to listen. And then we'll journey back out, and then we'll come back, okay? Dennis is gonna play some music, and we're gonna start. So Dave, will you be walking the labyrinth? Will you go ahead and start? I'm gonna hold some space. I'm gonna come down and invite you. Now, give yourself some time to pace. We get a little backed up, that's okay. You can all be walking the labyrinth mostly at the same time, so I invite you to rise, those of you who are able. You can go as slow as you like. Dennis, I invite you to take a breath with me. So what does it mean to find our center, and why do we care? How was it walking the labyrinth? You can just shout it out. It was close, wasn't it? Yeah. For those of you who've been with bigger labyrinths or outdoor labyrinths, it's a little close. Was that okay? Was that okay? Yeah. There is something extraordinarily tender about watching people doing this practice with a sense of silence, with a sense of the willingness to go in. For some, maybe it was a risk. It was something I've never done before. Am I going to feel foolish? So how was it? You can just shout it out. Did anyone go in with any questions? No?
Came closer to the answers.
Okay. Anyone else?
Felt like a pilgrim.
I'll repeat that. So Julia said, came closer to answers, and Suzanne said, felt like a pilgrim. And that is really what Journey is about, right? That's what really this can evoke, is a sense of, and what do pilgrims do? They're just not going to Hawaii, right? Although some people made pilgrimage to Hawaii. Some people did to see Ram Dass, their spiritual teacher. But a pilgrimage is an inner journey, isn't it? It's a quest. Okay, anyone else have any experience that you'd like to share? Right. So excuse me. You've done it before and had eye contact. And this time, people didn't make eye contact. And remember that this was an inner journey. So sometimes people do make eye contact, and most often when people are experiencing an inner journey, it's an inner focus. Yeah. So it's kind of like being in community, but understanding and recognizing our solitariness, even in community. Anyone else?
I was surprised by the obviousness of the answer that I found. It was like I already.
Yes, nice. That little wisdom voice knew. So often we do know. Sometimes we don't. You know, we spent some time yesterday talking about being in liminal space. You know, we were in liminal space in the pandemic, and there are times in our lives when we're in liminal space, where there isn't, you know, we're not in, we're not out. It's a time of the depths, and that's a time when we look for answers, and sometimes we find them, and sometimes we don't. And so you were closer to answers, yours were right there. And that's the thing about an inner journey, about finding our center and living from center. When we're living from center, we are living from a place of being able to be grounded, even amidst storms. I don't want to torture the whole story of the trees and the tornadoes, but some trees blew over, right? Like the whole tree fell over. Some branches fell over. Some trees with really strong roots that have more flexibility, they maybe some branches fall off, but they don't fall over, right? So living from center, we didn't do a grounding today, and we'll do that another time. But living from center gives us the opportunity to feel grounded and to be coming from that place of inner knowing, and when we don't know, of still being able to trust that whether we can hear that still small voice, wherever you think that voice comes from, that it is still whispering to us. And in the silence, in the going in, we have the opportunity to hear that and to intuitively respond. And sometimes it takes more time than others. There's no perfect one way to do this, just like I didn't give specific instructions about how to walk the labyrinth. There's a whole labyrinth course there, so you can be a facilitator of labyrinth, because there's many ways to engage this process. And there are many other spiritual practices that you've raised your hands for. What I encourage us to do in this time, in a time of still liminal space, where we're called upon from various demands, dealing with losses, to take that time and to find the practice that allows you to hear and listen and respond to that inner voice, to the inner knowing. Sometimes it's not a voice, right? Some people don't hear voices, some people do, in more ways than one, and that's okay too. Sometimes it's a feeling in our bodies. Our bodies are just the place our memories call home. Our bodies know before we have a thought, and we're going to talk about that another time. But doing some sort of a practice gives us the opportunity to connect with our bodies and with the wisdom of our bodies. Because you may have a thought and then realize, oh man, I have a stomach ache, when actually you had the stomach ache before you had that thought. So doing practice gives us the opportunity to come from that place of being aware. so that we can move through the world in whatever way, whether we roll or crawl or however we get through the world, to do that from a place of knowing. I have some words by Valerie Carr. Valerie Carr is a Sikh attorney, civil rights attorney and activist, and she's the author of the book that the racial equity team is going to be studying this summer, reading this summer, called See No Stranger. And these are words from Valerie Carr. I believe that deep wisdom resides within each of us. Some call this voice by different names: Spirit, God, Jesus, Allah, Om, Buddha nature, Waheguru, the still small voice, the inner knowing, I add. Others think of this voice as an intuition one hears when in a calm state of mind. Whatever name we choose, listening to our deepest wisdom requires disciplined practice. The loudest voices in the world right now are ones running on the energy of fear, criticism, and cruelty. The voices we spend the most time listening to in the world and inside our own minds shape the way we see, how we feel, and what we do. When I spend time listening to people who are speaking from their deepest wisdom, I can feel understanding, inspiration, and energy nourish the root of my own wisdom. She says, when I spend time listening to people who are speaking from their deepest wisdom, I can feel understanding, inspiration, and energy nourish the root of my own wisdom. But I must not lose myself at the feet of others. My most vigilant spiritual practice is finding the seconds of solitude to get quiet enough to hear the wise woman in me. My invitation to you, beloveds, is to attend to and listen to the wise one within you. And know that the wise one is there. Because, y'all, if it's in the ladybug, it's in us all. I invite you to join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Now I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our closing song, Go Now in Peace. Okay. No, we can do you know how to sing it? Okay, come on, if you will. Come on. Yes, I love someone who has a clear, beautiful voice. I can do it with you. We'll do it, do it through a couple of times.
This is a good note to start on. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the Spirit of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. I want to do it again. Here we go. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you.
My closing words are, go in peace, be makers of peace. Amen, Ashe, blessed be. Some closing music from Dennis.